Do you have any questions of the guys here?
I want to say
President.
thank you to the veterans who are here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for defending us. And then I wanted to ask you, Mr. President, because you said you want to bring the tariffs on China down soon. How soon do you want to bring the tariffs on Chinese goods
Well,
down?
that depends on them. We have a situation where we have a very, very great place. It's called the United States of America, and it's been ripped off for years and years. These people know it. We talked about it before you came in. We've been ripped off by every country in the world practically, and friend and foe. And we're not doing that anymore. So what's happened is Howard, how many countries have we spoken to already? 90. And they all want to make deals, and we're going to make deals, but they're going to be fair deals. They're not going to be rip-off deals. And you know, we were losing almost $5 billion a year. No country can do that. And now we have it down almost to even, maybe even better than even, because of the tariffs on cars and aluminum and steel. We have tariffs 25% on cars, aluminum and steel. There's a rush to build new steel plants, a rush to build new aluminum plants, and a biggest rush I've ever seen, that we've ever seen, to build car plants. We have like 11 of them or something, big ones, where you guys maybe work, maybe you won't want to work, you'll do something else instead of that. But if you like cars, you'd like to work at one of these plants, the biggest plants in the world. 3 of them have left Mexico before construction started, 1 of them during construction, and they're coming to this country. They're coming back, don't forget. And we get along great with Mexico, but Mexico took 32% of our car building business. So it's amazing what's happened. Remember this number, anywhere from $3 to $5 billion a day. That's not $1 million, that's $1 billion a day. Nobody can even imagine it. And that's what we were losing. And, you know, hence we have $36 trillion in debt and everything else. And in the end, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have great deals. And by the way, if we don't have a deal with a company or a country, we're going to set the tariff. We just set the tariff. It's something that we think that will happen, I'd say, over the next couple of weeks. Wouldn't you say? I think so. Over the next 2-3 weeks, we'll be setting the number.
For
and
China.
We're going to pick, could be for China too, could be for China. We're dealing with almost all of them. Too many to fully deal with, but we're going to be fair to them. But we're dealing with a lot of countries right now, and could be with China, but maybe we'll make a special, you know, a deal, and we'll see what it will be. Right now, it's 145%. That's very high. As you know, we essentially taxed them 10, and then another 10. We also taxed Mexico 25, and we taxed Canada 25, and that's the kind of money that's what's pouring into our country right now. And it's gotten us down from losing $3 to $5 billion a day to actually making money, but breaking even, let's say. But we're going to make a lot of money, and that money is going to be used to reduce taxes. We're going to get big, big tax breaks. We're going to, you know, there was a time, I said it this morning, I think some of you were there, there was a time from 1870 to 1913, it was a long time ago, we were an all-tariff nation. Foreign nations paid taxes. They paid money to us in the form of tariffs. And that was when we were the wealthiest. We were the wealthiest proportionately that we ever were. And they formed committees in 1887 in particular, but they formed committees to determine what we should do with all the money. We had so much money, you guys would have loved it. We had so much money, they didn't know what to do with it. We gave it away to different causes, and you haven't seen that too much anymore, although we give plenty away, but now we shouldn't be giving it away. We have to take care of ourselves first, right?
Absolutely.
But we were very wealthy, and proportionately the wealthiest we ever were. We built the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave that away for $1, by the way. One of the most profitable things ever built, the Panama Canal. We gave it away for $1 to Panama. Why? I don't know. Nobody knows, but that's what we had. We had people like that sitting behind this desk. And that shouldn't have happened. Panama Canal, it was the most expensive thing ever built by our country in history. I'm talking relative dollars. We've never built anything so expensive. I think it was the equivalent of $1.7 billion. And we've never built anything like that. We built a lot of things, but never so expensive. Then we started building other things. We had a lot of money to do it. all based on foreign countries coming in and paying us tariffs. And we're doing that again, and I think we're going to make so much that we're going to be able to reduce taxes in this country by a lot. And we're also going to treat those countries very fairly. But if we don't make a deal, which is possible, we're going to just set the price. Because you remember, they have to come in, they want to come in here, and they want to do business with the United States. So we want to set a fair price, and we'll do that. We're going to be very fair, but we'll set a fair price. And then they can make a determination as to whether or not they want to do business with the United States. And I think most of them will. And I think we're going to treat them very fairly.
Were you worried about what the 145% tariffs were doing to small businesses here in the U.S.?
No.
Is that why you're bringing it down?
No, I haven't brought it down. I haven't brought it, still 145. I haven't brought it down. I said it's a high tariff. It is a high tariff, but I haven't brought it down. It basically means China's not doing any business with us, essentially, because it's a very high number. So when you add that to the price of a product, a lot of those products aren't going to sell. But China's not doing any business. They were doing $1.1 trillion. Think of that, $1.1 trillion. You know what that is? And it was just very unfair to us, and we were doing very little, relatively very little with them. It was a one-sided, very one-sided. But we get along. I get along very well with President Xi, and I hope we can make a deal. Otherwise, we'll set a price, and hopefully they'll come here and they'll contribute. And if they don't, that's okay.
What is Mr. Witkoff going to present to the
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, during the Biden administration in the campaign, with inflation raging, he lowered interest rates 2 times.
That's right.
Now, with 2 consecutive months of inflation being down, all economic theory you learned in the 8th grade says it's time to cut rates when inflation is down.
You're right.
He's not done that. Have you had any direct conversation with him?
No, I haven't. I haven't called him. I might call him. I haven't called him, but I believe he's making a mistake by not lowering interest rates. And I think as well as we're doing, we'd do much better. He's keeping rates too high. He historically has been late, except when it came to Biden. He was recommended by a certain person that I'm not particularly happy with, but he will hopefully do the right thing. The right thing is to lower interest rates, so we'll see what happens. I think we're sitting on something that's going to be very good. With all the tariff money starting to come in, our country's going to be doing really well, and hopefully he'll be. We don't have inflation. Groceries are down. When I first came in, you people were there. They hit me with the first day that I was president. Somebody started screaming at me that eggs are up. I said, I just got here. And in the first week, they were going crazy. You remember that, Linda?
Yes.
They were going crazy. They're saying, egg prices are too. I said, I'm here for 1 week. Just leave me alone. This is a fake news media. And I said, what can I tell you? But Brooke Rollins, our Secretary of Agriculture, and a group working with her have done an amazing job. And egg prices have gone down 87%. Energy now is down $65 a barrel. They have some energy selling gasoline for less than $2 in a couple of states. Alabama, a couple of great states, but all over the country, it's way down from what it was 6 months ago, 3 months ago. And that has a lot to do with the war. When Biden allowed energy to skyrocket, it just skyrocketed. It was out of control. Russia made a lot more money because they make their money on energy. And I kept saying, he supposedly wants to end the war, but he lets energy go out of control. Well, I've gotten it. We are drilling like crazy right now, and we have it down to $65 a barrel. It went up to almost $100 a barrel. And at that number, Putin and Russia made a lot of money. So I think one of the reasons, I think he has a certain respect for me. But one of the big reasons is oil prices are down. I think this is a good time to get the war settled. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Let me ask a second question.
Yeah.
Canada has an election coming up. Do you have a prediction for that, and what do you think the results of
With
that
respect to Canada?
with the negotiations?
Oh, I don't want to predict other nations' elections. It's tough enough doing this one. Look, I love the Canadian people. I like Canada, but it's costing us $200 billion a year to support Canada. $200 billion. And I say, why are we doing that? You know what? We can make our own cars. We have more energy than they do. We have more energy than anybody in the world. We don't need their lumber, obviously. We have more lumber. We have a lot of lumber. We have a lot of everything that they sell us. But in particular cars, they took a large percentage of the car making, and I want to bring it back to this country. I really don't want cars from Canada. So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars. When we put tariffs on, all we're doing is we're saying we don't want your cars in all due respect. We want really to make our own cars, which is what we're doing in record numbers now. You know, we're going to be at record levels in a very near future because of all the plants, the car plants that are being built. And I'd rather see them made in Michigan and made in South Carolina and made in different states, Tennessee. We have a lot of great car making states, and we have some that aren't car making yet, but they will soon be car making states. And that's what I want to see for our country. At the same time, I want to help Canada. I have spoken to the current Prime Minister. He was very, very nice, I will say. Very nice. We had a couple of very nice conversations, very good. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to get involved in their election.
Mr. President, thank you. On tariffs, you just mentioned that 25% could go up on cars in terms of Canada. Does that mean that you're considering changes to the auto tariffs and auto parts?
No, we're not considering it now, but at some point it could go up, yeah, because, again, we don't really want Canada to make cars for us, to put it bluntly. We want to make our own cars, and we're now equipped to do that. They took a lot of our car business. Mexico, too, took a lot of our car business. We want to make the cars here. I'm running this country. I'm not running Canada. And that's why I asked Trudeau, who I call Governor Trudeau affectionately, but I asked him, why are we spending $200 billion to support Canada, to subsidize Canada? And he was unable to answer the question. I mean, why are we doing that? And I have to be honest, as a state, it works great. As a nation, considering the fact that most of the nation, 95% of Canada, what they do is they buy from us and they sell to us. They sell to us. If we didn't buy their oil, and we don't need their oil. We have more oil than anyone, but we don't need their oil. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their cars. We don't need anything. So I said, why are we doing this? Why are we spending $200 billion? It doesn't make sense. If we needed something, that would be a different subject. So I'm working well with Canada. We're doing very well. We're working on a deal. We'll see what happens. But again, why, representing this country, why are we spending $200 billion to support and subsidize another country? Because if they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, as Trudeau told me, they would cease to exist. He said that to me. They would cease to exist, which is true, certainly as a country.
And then on tourism, there's been a steep drop-off in international travel to the United States. It was down 12% last month, down even more from Western Europe. Why do you think that there are fewer people suddenly who want to travel to the United States?
Well, there could be a little, there's a little nationalism there, I guess, perhaps. It's not a big deal, but, with the dollar being where it is, because, China would always fight for having a low dollar. Japan would always fight for having a low dollar, meaning a low yen, or in the case of China, the yuan. They'd always want to have, I'd speak to President Xi a lot. I'd say it's unfair that your yuan is so low. I'd call up a great man, Prime Minister Abe, great man, Shinzo, who was unfortunately assassinated. And I used to tell you, he was a good friend of mine. I used to say, Shinzo, you can't let your yen go down. It makes it very hard for us to sell tractors. It makes it very hard to us to get tourism. And our dollar is a little bit on the low side. And that means that a lot of tourism is going to come in. But I could see a little bit nationalism at work. And I can see it likewise with us not wanting to go to certain countries. But that will work out very
Do
easily.
you think some people are scared to come here because they hear the stories of tourists who are detained for a few days
No.
or even a week or two?
No, we treat our tourists great. We're the tourism capital of the world. There's no place like this. And there may be a little bit of nationalism, but I doubt it. I actually doubt it, yeah.
Mr. President, has there been any direct contact between the U.S. and China for trade at all?
Yeah, of course.
And
Every day.
every day? And then secondly, would you support a millionaire tax?
I think it would be very disruptive because a lot of the millionaires would leave the country. You know, in the old days, they left states. They go from one state to the other. Now with transportation so quick and so easy, they leave countries. You'll lose a lot of money if you do that. That would, and other countries that have done it have lost a lot of people. They lose their wealthy people. That would be bad because the wealthy people pay the tax. Okay?
So you understand that you, your economic team, many of them are here today, J.D. Vance, has negotiated what's been called a monster trade deal with India, like biggest one ever. Can you share with us what some of the framework of that might be?
You said England.
India.
India?
India.
Oh.
Muslim.
They're not very complicated, these deals. It's about the tariffs. India charges almost more than any other country in the world. And believe it or not, we do very little business with India, other than the fact that I like the Prime Minister very much. He's a friend of mine. He was here 2 weeks ago, as you know. And we stood right outside at a news conference. Unfortunately, the grass was very wet. And it was very hard for people to stand on the grass. They got their shoes all ruined. But other than that, it was a very good news conference. And he's a great guy. But we do very little business. You know why? Because their tariffs are so high. They have among the highest tariffs, higher than China. They have among the highest tariffs in the world. And I understand they're going to reduce those tariffs. But it's really sort of their problem, not ours. We do very, very little purchasing in India because and selling. We do very little selling. I mean, Harley Davidson, I said, how are you doing in India? This is about 6 years ago. They came to lunch as a great American company. They make the motorcycles. And I said, how are you doing in India, as an example? Well, we don't do any business there. Why? Because the tariffs are too high. I said, that's interesting. Well, what are you going to do? He said, well, we're going to build a plant in India. And that's what they did. I don't want that to happen. They were forced to build a plant. Well, essentially what we're doing is the same thing. Remember, there's no tariff when they build their plant here. And everybody wants to build because they don't want, and the higher the tariffs go, the more likely it is they come in and build a plant. You know, I mean, if it's 25%, that's fine. If it's 50%, you'll get more plants. 75, you get more. At 100, you get more than that. And they're all coming in at numbers that nobody's, I don't think, Howard, there's ever been numbers like we've seen.
Never.
$7-8 trillion worth in 2 months. Because it took me a month to get started, in all fairness, but in 2 months we did this, and now we're coming up on 100 days, first 100 days, and I think we're going to be close to $8 trillion. There was never any president that did even a tiny percentage of that. Okay, any other questions?
Sure, we're going to have a deal signed, one of the deals signed by your 100-day mark, and China is saying that you're threatening and blackmailing them into a deal. What would be your response?
Well, I mean, China, look, I have great relationships in China, and with President Xi in particular, but China has been charging us massive tariffs for many years. That's one of the reasons they were able to steal so many of our companies. They took our companies out of America, and they built their plants in China. And one of those things, so now we're reversing it, but at levels that nobody's ever seen before. No, we're going to get along great with China, I have no doubt about it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Thank you. Thank you.